And Min-Shin Pei is professor of government at Claremont McKenna College. He writes extensively about China. And welcome to you both. Min-Shin, I want to start with you. Does the fact that the protesters have left the airport, that very tense moment has somewhat died down, does that give you any hope that maybe things are overall dying down?
Yes, this is clearly a turning point. I think the protesters have committed an unforced error, and they recognized this. So there should be a period of de-escalation. What is unknown is what the government will do. If the government takes advantage of this period and start arresting more protesters or even charging them, then we can see a return of the protesters. So things are still quite fluid.
Well, hundreds of protesters have already been arrested. Based on what you've heard from the government so far, what do you think the Chinese government will do?
Well, first of all, the Hong Kong government has arrested them, and so it's up to the Hong Kong government to decide whether to charge those who have been arrested or whether to prosecute those who have been charged. So this is up to the Hong Kong government. What the Chinese government wants to do really depends on whether the Hong Kong government can maintain control of the situation. A few days ago, it certainly seemed that the Hong Kong government was losing its grip. Today, I'm a little bit more relieved.
Justice Department official now tells NBC News that a team from the Bureau of Prisons will be at the Metropolitan Correctional Center today to examine what went wrong there. We're told protocol, whenever there is a significant event at a detention facility, calls for that move. Meanwhile, an administration official tells NBC News the FBI and DOJ Inspector General, which also are investigating the circumstances around Epstein's death, are being stymied by some federal employees who are, quote, lawyering up. This comes after yesterday's news that the warden at the federal lockup has been reassigned and 2 guards tasked with monitoring Epstein have been placed on leave. We're also learning more about one of the workers who was supposed to be guarding Epstein at the time. Yesterday, we reported the employee was not a full-time corrections officer. Now, a person familiar with the investigation tells NBC News that employee had been a corrections guard for 7 years. He then accepted a different job with better hours, but routinely took an overnight shift as a corrections officer to get overtime pay. The source would not say whether the employee was one of the 2 placed on administrative leave.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. You're listening to FukPolitcs. I'm your host, Christopher Gordon. And you just heard some clips regarding the present state of Hong Kong protests and what's happening, Hong Kong-China relations. As if we ourselves as a country, the United States, didn't have enough of its own issues with China. China has issues with itself, of course. And then we heard a clip from the report regarding the death, mysterious death, and it shouldn't be mysterious, of pedophile and sex slave owner Jeffrey Epstein. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was being watched, but then not really. And as you heard in that clip, there were 2 security guys who were watching him, and an update to what you just heard is that apparently they were both asleep, or one of them was asleep. And as a nursing aide, a former nursing aide, I myself have conducted many a suicide watch at Roosevelt Hospital in the early 2000s. And when I would be on a suicide watch, you don't really nap. You can't nap. I know a lot of folks that I worked with, and I probably shouldn't be saying this to let, blow their spot up, but a lot of other fellow nursing aides who were supposed to be watching these people would conk out for a bit. You do this sort of thing called light sleeping, where your eyes are open but you're not really paying attention, and then your eyes drift and open and drift and open. It's truly no way to get a good sleep, obviously. But then, so yeah, this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing shouldn't be mysterious, but it is, because a couple weeks prior, he said they were out to get him, and then all of a sudden he's dead. and the results are in. They say that his bones in his neck were broken, which matches up with what would happen when one his age would hang themselves, right? But a lot of folks, including myself, don't even know if he's really dead. We haven't really seen any photos of the body, and we do live in an age where we see tons of death photos. We saw a photo of a migrant and his daughter face down in water, dead. So where's the Epstein death photo? You could go online right now and not only see our First Lady naked, but you could see the JFK picture of his head blown off. Coming up a little later, I'm going to be interviewing my friend, Josh Goldstein. He's an immigration attorney, and I want to speak with him to find out more about what that entails and what that's all about, and what that must be like these days to be an immigration attorney. So I will be speaking with him on this program about what's going on, because basically the wheels are coming off the planet, it seems. Literally. I mean, one of the things that really gets to me and really angers me is the recent rollback and non-renewal of endangered wildlife protections. That's just horrible. When we can't come together to even protect wildlife, we can't even protect children. We can't protect children. We can't protect wildlife. It's a very, very strange and twisted time right now. And I'm sure if he were around, Hunter Thompson would agree. But then again, I'm sure others would tell you that Hunter S. Thompson himself was a Satan-worshipping, adrenochrome-drinking shill, right? Everyone's a shill. Everyone, according to everyone else, is has a menu that they need to present to the public and have people feeding off your menu. Well, so my menu, I guess, is to focus on our society and things that are happening around the world and in our own country, the United States. Because lately I've just been really beside myself. Episode 2, we discussed Iran and the mass shootings. And yesterday there was another just wild event, a shootout with police and this lone gunman. Okay, and the gunman was just sort of shooting at police and definitely hit a few cops. From what I understand, no cops passed away. No cops perished in this wild event. But I think it's something like 6 to 8 cops were shot and were definitely down, were hit. I'm just sort of surprised that this event would even happen. And it happened in North Philly, right? Northern Pennsylvania, I guess. See, I'm a little confused. I don't know actually if it's North Philly or Northern Pennsylvania where this happened. Either way, this guy got a couple of hostages and was in a house or something and was basically just shooting at the cops. And the cops all gathered around the house and were completely unable to take him out. And then they said once you get SWAT in, the SWAT team will definitely be able to... All they need is for the shooter to get to the window, and then boom, that's it. Like, this guy's going to get taken out. But that never happened. So SWAT actually did show up, and what they did was they negotiated the gunman releasing the hostages and coming out. So I guess we still don't know what's going on with that, but I can only assume that the shooter is white. Yes? I mean, hopefully those listening can understand how perhaps the shooter is what. I don't know. I don't even know what. I don't know the race. Or I don't know anything about the shooter. I don't know why this was done. I don't know if 6 to 8 is even the right amount of cops that were actually hit. But from what I was able to see and learn, it was a really wild event. People, there were a few dozen people on the street just kind of watching. Then there are people just watching what's going on, let alone all the cops, and then you bring in the SWAT, right? Anyways, I'm willing to bet that the person is white because, not because they took him in and everything's okay. I mean, that does play into it. But I just recall an event where there was a shooter who shot at a few cops, and he hauled himself up in like a parking lot. And if anyone remembers, Obama sent in a drone, and the drone took out the shooter. So that's why I kind of don't understand. Maybe they thought to themselves, wow, this guy's a pretty good shooter. He's able to hit our cops. Maybe we should speak with him. I mean, I don't. That's the only conclusion I can come to logically for why. Look at El Paso. Was it? No, I beg your pardon. If you look at Dayton, in Dayton, Ohio, that shooter was killed within 32 seconds. Okay, and more information has come out about that shooter in Dayton, Ohio. He apparently was on Xanax, alcohol, and cocaine. And a bag of coke was in his pocket, okay, when they killed him. So his body was hit with 52 bullets. He got hit 52 times after 32 seconds of shooting. He was shooting for 32 seconds, and then when he first got hit, of the 52 shots that happened 32 minutes into it, right? So, yes, that's quick. I'm not gonna get into any sort of race thing over what happened, and I have no. There's no reason to. It was a white guy taken out in 32 seconds. I will, however, say that Tamir Rice, the 12-year-old boy who in Cleveland, Ohio, was at a playground by himself playing with a toy gun, was shot in under 5 seconds by a police officer. I think it was 2 seconds, literally. I'm not being facetious. It was literally 1/1000 to 1,000 from the time the officer opened up his door to the time Tamir Rice fell to the ground. 2 seconds. So this guy was taken out. I get it, absolutely. It kind of kills the theory that if they're white, you're right and you get taken in. No. In a situation like that, law enforcement's taught to shoot to kill, which is why he had 52 bullets. Now, they're saying at that scene, 2 people were hit by law enforcement bullets. But then news sources are saying, but the fatal shots were already done by the gunman. So what they're saying here is that cops shot dead people, and nothing will happen to them because they were actually already dead. Like their shots weren't the lethal ones that took these people out. They were already dead or dying from the gunman. Absolutely crazy. So this guy's on all these drugs, which are pretty easy to get no matter where you live. Just as guns are easy to get, so are the drugs. This guy's boozing it up, drinking down Xanax, doing lines to get more up, right? Doing lines of coke to get more up, and then probably going through that vicious cycle over and over and over and over and over again, We still don't know why he shot his sister. Shot and killed his sister. We don't know if that was an accident. We don't know if that was intentional. And not much is known about El Paso, other than the mayor, of course, is upset with President Trump because Trump keeps walking around saying that El Paso's crime going down has to do with making the wall, completing the wall. And the mayor disagrees and says, no, it has been going down prior to the wall or any talk of the wall. So now these guys are arguing while 20 somewhat people are dead. And that gunman is alive. So the gunman yesterday with the police, and by yesterday I mean Wednesday, August 14th, he's alive. So maybe we'll get some more answers. But Jeffrey Epstein is still dead, apparently. And we don't know much. Other than now there's law in New York State where people could come forward no matter the time and bring to court their abusers. So many cases were brought forward to the courts yesterday because of this. I mean, this is pretty amazing. And I believe now that they have a year from now to come forward, but it doesn't matter when the event took place, they can come forward. They have a year to come forward. Absolutely fascinating and incredible and huge, huge, huge legislation. So a lot of men actually came forward to bring to court their abusers, men of the faith, men of the cloth. A lot of sexual predators and sexual abuse and pedophilia happening in religion with a lot of priests. And the Pope still hasn't done much other than slaps on wrists and saying that he doesn't condone it. He hasn't done that much. And that's something I would definitely like to speak with Mr. Sam Tripoli when he comes on soon. But that is, I don't understand why our country is having so many issues protecting wildlife and protecting children. I do not understand it. Hand over fist for the children? Are they paying? Is that what keeps that going? The sex slave industry, is that fueled by money and obviously by power? But is that money? Is that just like a money thing? Those who are able to provide the children are getting paid. Those who are paying are getting paid and they have a lot of money. Where does it stop? That's the weird thing. And the other creepy thing is, like, just because Epstein is dead, quote unquote, dead, it doesn't mean necessarily that that's done. He didn't do that on his own. There's that lady whose name I can't pronounce, Maxwell's, whatever. She's definitely on it, and she's just kind of walking around. I don't know what's going on, if they've done much with her. I gotta find that out, but I don't understand how pedophilia and mass shootings are trending. I don't understand it. I don't understand how mass shootings have literally become this normalized. And then today, 2 congresswomen were banned from going to Israel. One of whom's grandmother lives in Palestine. And Israel does not want them to visit because they feel that they support BDS and that they hate Israel. You see, it is proper now in the United States, and it's been normalized, to label anyone who disagrees with Israel's government to be labeled anti-Semitic. You could totally take liberty of doing that. Because no one truly understands the difference between Zionism and Judaism. I mean, Zionists are really hardcore alt-right nuts. They're nuts. They're loaded, they're wealthy, and they're nuts. Their power is obsolete. In Judaism has nothing to do with that. You can ask any rabbi. Ask any good rabbi, and they will tell you this is true. So the problem is, we live in a country now where in 23 states, one can lose their job for boycotting Israel and speaking out against the way Israel treats Palestinians. You could lose your job. If your employer finds out that you've been passing around literature about abuse towards Palestine and Palestinians, you could lose your job. So right now, I have with me, as promised, Josh Goldstein. Josh Goldstein is an immigration attorney. And Josh, tell those listening where they can learn more about you and find out more about what you do.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I have a website. My website is josh.law. And if you go to josh.law, you can find my website. It has information about me and my practice. I'm also on social media, Instagram, Facebook. If you Google Joshua Goldstein Immigration, you'll see my name all over the place. I've been doing this a long time. We have an office here in Los Angeles, where I live, and we also have an office in Boston. Take on cases across the country, around the world.
Where would you say?
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, where would you say between East Coast and West Coast? Is it? I'm under the assumption you would have a lot of cases here on the West Coast. Is that true, or is it just the same?
We have a lot of cases all over the place. Just today I took on a new case for somebody who lives in Western Washington State. Mm-hmm. And so some of my clients are remote to me, and they're not people that I meet with in person. But most folks come to my office in downtown LA, and we help people get green cards, work visas. We do deportation defense. We help green card holders become U.S. citizens. We solve problems with immigration agencies, stuff of that nature. Amazing.
What are some of the biggest hurdles that you're facing these days doing what you do? Let me ask you really quick off the top. Is it true what they say that there just aren't as many judges to listen to these cases to begin with?
I think that's always been the case. In immigration court, they describe it as it's like trying death penalty cases in a traffic court. Mm-hmm. People's lives are on the line, and you're in this administrative court that's just not set up for that. So sometimes a routine case in immigration court might take 5 to 7 years.
Wow.
It's crazy, yeah, and it's been that way for a long time, even before Trump. But one of the particular challenges that I have right now in my practice is that the Trump administration comes out with all these new rules all the time that make it harder for people to get green cards, harder for people to get citizenship, make the rules more difficult. Mm-hmm. And it's just, when Trump was running for office, I remember I had an argument with one of my friends who's a Republican. I have one friend who's a Republican.
I think we all have that one friend.
Yeah, and he said to me, Josh, we're not against immigration. We're just against illegal immigration, right? That's what he said. But now that the Republicans have the presidency and they have political power, they have their own view about what is legal immigration. Yeah. And, for example, asylum, they don't like asylum. So they say asylum shouldn't be legal immigration. They don't like the diversity visa, a lot of them. So they want to get rid of that. They don't like that. That's legal immigration, but not, in their eyes, they don't like that. They want to change the definition. They want to change the poem on the goddamn Statue of Liberty,
Yeah.
So it's always something. And the latest thing that I've had to deal with, which could have a profound effect on the way immigration goes in this country, is the new public charge rules. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
No, please let us discuss.
So this is a big deal. They want to make America white, and they want to make it only open to people who are rich.
Wow.
So they came up with this rule that said that, we've always had, there's a rule in immigration, the law, that says that in order to get a green card through a family member, you have to show that the petitioner has a certain income level.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a routine thing, We send in a copy of their taxes, pay stubs, and the case will be processed. Now they're saying they're going to open that all up, and they're going to change public charge, and they're going to weaponize it. And
so it doesn't matter.
redefine-
So the income doesn't matter at that point, and the amount of taxes paid at
Well,
that
they're
point.
saying the income matters, but then they're going to go and look at all this other things, like does the person speak English?
Wow.
What is the health of that person? Like the use of Obamacare. So, for example, if you have U.S. citizen children who are legally eligible for subsidized health insurance, the use of that could be used against you. And really, the goal is to create a climate of fear in immigrant communities that prevents people from asserting their legal rights, like using any kind of benefits that, even if they're eligible for them. And I'm getting calls all day long about Medi-Cal and CalFresh and all these sorts of things, and it's really caused people to freak out because then no longer are they able to get a green card. They're questioned in a way that they hadn't been. Another issue. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
LA has a huge Iranian community. Trump doesn't like Iran. So they came out with this rule that is the Muslim ban, right?
Right.
The Muslim ban?
Right.
Supreme Court said there's no problem with the Muslim ban. No problem. We can do it.
We can do it,
And
yeah.
so if you're from Iran or Yemen or some of the other countries that are subject to this Muslim ban, then you can't get a green card. So
Wow.
my client applied for his mother. His mother. And
Wow.
she went to Iran, and then this travel ban came out. She can't come back.
Wow.
She can't get a green card.
Wow. I had Yemenis landlords when I was living in Brooklyn. Am I under the impression that they too would not be able to go back and visit family, then come back?
Well, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can travel there and come back. If you have a green card, you can travel there and come back in general. But what I'm saying is, if you're from Yemen and you apply for your mother and you're a citizen,
It's not happening.
Yemeni, it's not happening. Or if your wife is in Yemen, or your husband is in Yemen, or close family members in Yemen, you can't do it.
With regards to the healthcare, isn't it funny how everyone seems to forget that Ronald Reagan even made it law that even if illegal immigrants and migrants are all due the right to healthcare, no matter their situation?
Ronald Reagan, he didn't demonize immigrants.
No.
He famously said that Latinos, Hispanics was the term at the time. He said that they were Republicans, they just didn't know it yet. So the idea was that there were a lot of Catholic, conservative, Latinos, and that those people could be Republican voters.
Yeah.
There's something fascinating. You can find it on YouTube, and it's a debate between George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan. And this is in the 1980 presidential election, and they're debating immigration.
Wow.
And they sound.
Oh wow.
It sounds like Bernie Sanders. It sounds like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. I mean,
Wow.
their opinions. They speak so favorably about immigration and with such kindness and openness about how immigrants should be treated. It bears no relationship to today's Republicans. That's absolutely absurd. These people were not anti-immigrant.
That's right.
They were totally in favor of immigration. This is a land of opportunity. It was tied in with capitalism, freedom.
Absolutely. Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
It is tied in with capitalism. I mean, everyone in this administration seems to forget that even those that are undocumented, They spend money in this country. They spend a lot of money in our country. Millions of dollars.
I like what Biden said. This is not your grandfather's Republican Party. You know, this is not the party of Ronald Reagan. This is not the party of Ford or Rockefeller or any of these people. This is Trump.
Do you think that?
Different animals.
Do you think that this is perhaps the last time our nation takes a gamble on a businessman to run things? Because remember when Forbes ran and Ross Perot ran, you know, they were all kind of laughed off, like a businessman couldn't do that, and yet they seem to have taken a chance on a shitty businessman. Do you think that do you think the majority of our nation gets the point that just because someone can run a building or a hotel or a casino, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can run government?
I think the appeal of a businessman is a strong one. And the people who support Trump absolutely love him. Absolutely love Trump. Mm-hmm. And Trump's not just a businessman. He's a reality TV star. When he was on The Apprentice, he projected authority and decisiveness. And it was all carefully edited and constructed to portray him in a certain light. And I think that people who watched that show came away thinking that he was a very competent and capable guy. And, you know, I don't think there's any reason in the world why someone else couldn't come along and do the same thing, unfortunately.
Now, how long have you been doing what you do with immigration law in your law firm?
Since about 7:30 this morning. Not the last time.
That's fabulous.
I've used that joke. I started practicing immigration law in 2001. I'm old as dirt.
So
I've been doing it a long time.
Since that time to now, in that landscape, in immigration law, in immigration court, has it remained the same politically, or do you see now more of a political divide? Do you see partisanship when you go into the courtroom?
Yeah. So,
like, does it play more of a role these days, or is it just kind of the same? I mean, I hear you when I hear you say that there are things that are changing, and you know they're making it difficult for a family and everything like this. But on a day-to-day basis, if you go in, are you thinking to yourself like, "Oh Christ, this government really won't stop. Like, this is really making my job more difficult"?
Yeah, I mean that's the way it feels, and I think that immigration attorneys, my colleagues who do what I do, I mean everybody's under a tremendous amount of stress. The clients are under stress. We're under stress, and everything's being more and more difficult. So it's a really challenging time. Immigration court has always been a difficult place. It's very adversarial. Mm-hmm. The opposing counsel is trying to support your client, and you're trying to make that not happen.
Yeah.
And the judge who makes the decision is usually a former prosecutor.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's tough. It really is.
If it weren't immigration law, what would be another facet of law that you would be interested in?
I mean, I've always done immigration. I haven't. I think anything that I can do to help people and to work for justice.
Right.
Right now, a big part of my practice is I sue the government. I sue USCIS, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI. Mm-hmm. I sue them in federal court. And,
amazing.
And I like doing it because what they do sometimes, if you're from a Muslim country and you apply for an immigration benefit, they just put you on hold for years.
Wow.
They sit on the cases. And so we sue to challenge that. We also sue to challenge the travel ban, and you know, on behalf of the Iranian nationals.
Yeah.
I hate anytime people are treated unfairly or have been wronged, and you know, what gets me going is fighting to help people who really deserve to get approved. You know.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I
gotta tell you one story if I could about
please.
the case I have right now. I've got a professor. She's a postdoc at Caltech. She's brilliant. She's
Wow.
an engineering, electrical engineering professor.
Wow.
And the government wants to deny her case because one of her former professors in Iran was convicted of a criminal case. So it's not that she did anything wrong.
God.
It's not that she did anything wrong at all. There's no allegation that she did anything wrong.
That's guilt by association.
That's exactly what it is. But they haven't even alleged that she is in any way, like nothing that she's done wrong. They use the term unresolved concern, but they never said what their concerns are. They just said like unresolved concern. I mean, her former professor could be an axe murderer for all we know, but that doesn't mean that she's involved in it.
How much of what she's doing and the work that she's doing you think has to do with their decision?
I think my own feeling is that she's targeted because of her national origin.
Wow.
And it's profoundly unfair. We sued them, and they're fighting us. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to help her because she deserves it. And there's no reason in the world why she shouldn't be approved.
So,
as far as I know.
So a case like this, does she reach out to you? Do you hear about it and reach out to her? How does that work? How do you two work together?
People need my help. They contact me through my website or through social media channels, or they call me and they raise their hand and they say, we need help. We're stuck. And they come into my office and we come up with a plan.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unreal. No, kudos to you, really. I'm just kind of dumbfounded by what you have to deal with and what you do.
It's really tough. It's tough.
On to more cheery matters. Epstein, what do you think happened? Do you think that he actually hanged himself?
It is very suspicious, isn't it?
I mean, I was saying earlier, we live in a world where we saw a photo of a migrant with his child, and they're lying dead facing the water, right? But we haven't seen any death photos of Epstein.
Well, my understanding is that there was an autopsy and showed that there were all sorts of broken bones in his neck that were inconsistent with being hanged.
Right.
And so, the old expression, dead men don't tell tales.
Yes. They certainly don't. Unless they're Bernie. Unless they're named Bernie. But, it just seems rather convenient that the guard that was... also, I was saying earlier, I was a nursing aide at Roosevelt Hospital for a few years of my life. And I used to do suicide watches. And I would, you hang out with them for 12 hours and then you leave. This guy passes out. The guy's standing outside where Epstein is and falls asleep, which I think is weird, right?
Yeah.
And now he's looking at federal time. But my whole thing is, if you ask me, I think he's alive and they just let him go, right? You get a dummy, you get a replacement. The one photo I did see shows him on a gurney with a resuscitation thing on his face. And he's apparently dead. But my thing is, his hands are on his belly over the railings, which is a weird thing for a dead person to be able to do. But I don't know. Who knows? And ultimately, I think what's really weird is that we're not protecting... At the end of the day, this is my whole thing, right? We're not protecting children, wildlife, migrants, and veterans as much as we really ought to. And how do we do, even if this guy gets booted out in 2020, is it going to take forever, you think, to turn around and get done what we really need to get done in order to protect these people? To protect people, humanity?
Well, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But
yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Okay, I do have all the answers.
No, but I mean, what's your take? Do you think, off the bat, whoever gets in, are they gonna? Is this just gonna be more of the same shit? Does change happen overnight because it needs to?
I mean, it's easy to be cynical, and I mean, Obama had at best a very mixed record on immigration.
Agreed.
And it's easy to be cynical about this. But I think if we can defeat Trump in 2020 and put any Democrat in the White House, that would do a world of good, and they could by presidential decree, executive authority, they could undo a lot of this stuff that he's done. The travel ban, this bullshit public charge, a lot of these decisions that have been put into place by Sessions and Barr, a lot of that could be undone.
Yeah.
No new immigration laws can be passed until you have control of all three branches of Congress. Because with Republicans in control of the Senate, it seems unlikely that that's going to end anytime soon. And so I don't expect any new immigration laws.
Well, that's one reason why I think Beto ought to drop out and run for Senate again. I mean, there's so many of these peeps.
Article about that again,
Yeah, I mean, I just feel there's so many of these people that would just be so much better off being in Senate than, better to help your state and to help the overall picture of good than the country, I feel. Like, you take the hit. He can always run later. But I don't know. Hey, if we had to go out right now and vote, who gets your vote right now?
Which presidential candidate? I think I'll give you two answers to that.
Okay.
And it depends. Some days I wake up and I think Biden would be the best choice. And the reason is that to win the election, I'm a single issue voter. And that issue is winning the election.
There it is.
Some days I wake up and I think Biden is the best choice. He's conservative. Yeah. And maybe that is what the American people want. I mean, think about it. You need to win the election. Is not a national election. There are 8 states that you need to win in order to win the election. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And maybe Biden is the best. Maybe Biden is the best guy to win those states. I don't. And then on other days I wake up and I think Biden is such an uninspiring guy, and he's so old, and his style of politics, I don't share his views on a lot of the issues, and so some days I wake up and if I could pick whoever I wanted to be the president, I like Elizabeth Warren the best.
I'm with you on that.
But I just wonder,
I hear you.
She seems maybe too earnest, and maybe people in Michigan and Florida would not be open to her. Maybe there's sexism going on where a woman candidate wouldn't be as good. I hate that because for me, I would love to see a woman as president. And so I guess some days I wake up and I think Biden would be the best person. And some days I wake up and I think Biden is really lame, and we need somebody who's inspiring and passionate and so sometimes I think Biden, sometimes I think Warren, but I mean I don't even like any of these candidates would be universe better than Bernie Sanders, Biden, and I just like whoever can win.
It's funny. Remember, everyone was saying, listen, between Trump and whomever, I'm going to vote for a tuna sandwich. Now I kind of wish a tuna sandwich were running.
Well, no problem with tuna sandwich.
Me either.
Tuna sandwich is not a white supremacist.
Got my vote and my bite.
Even with mayonnaise.
Even with mayonnaise, please. Please. Well, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Republicans are so far to the right, they're off the spectrum, and they say Democrats are so far left that they're moderate.
Yeah, maybe Biden is what a Republican would look like in a reasonable world, and But
both he
but I don't
and...
know. Yeah, I'm a single issue voter. I just want to win the election. And,
Just get in there.
Whoever wins, as long as it's a Democrat and not Trump. I mean, because it would be so profoundly satisfying to see Trump defeated.
Yes.
If he were to resign or be impeached and replaced by Pence, then they would all sweep it under the rug and normalize it, and nobody would have to. There'd be no reckoning for Trump. It'd be great to see him swept out of office and then indicted.
No, leave me alone. No, you have to come with us. No! I mean, you could see it. You could see it happening.
From your lips to God's ears.
Oh, my arms are too short to box with God. Josh Goldstein, thank you so much for being on FukPolitcs with me on this fabulous episode 3. Again, please tell everyone again your YouTube channel and your the website to go visit.
Yeah, check out my website. It's Josh JOSH.law LAW. That's the best place to find me.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Keep fighting the good fight.
You as well, my friend. Josh Goldstein. Thank you all out there so much for listening. You've been listening to FukPolitcs. This is episode 3. And keep checking us out. Check us out at FukPolitcs.com. FukPolitcs.com. And yeah, this is a good time. Thank you.